Jason, listen! There is some news out of the Northwest. According to Sam Amick and Shams Charania, Damian Lillard has interest in playing with Ben Simmons. As many of our listeners know, Ben has yet to play a game for his current team, the Philadelphia 76ers. You know, if the Blazers were to acquire Simmons at the trade deadline, it would likely involve a trade with CJ McCollum, a first-round draft pick, and probably a young player will probably be thrown in there. Now, we could talk about how the addition of the defensive MVP runner-up to the Blazers could help Dame, but honestly, like, is there enough time to fix it there with the Blazers is my question. Should they just start all over, start from scratch, figure it out? Because I feel like the more you add on to the situation is only going to make it a little messier right now. What are your thoughts?
I mean, this is all reading tea leaves, right? But like looking at it, now is the time to blow it up. You got a new GM, a brand new coach who was brought in, and Chauncey might be good. Obviously has a great pedigree as a player and wants to come in and install a more defensive system, which obviously the Blazers need. They are dead last in defense this season. I believe they were dead last season. Like, obviously Dame is among the great scorers in NBA history. If they could only stop anybody, they'd be better. So Chauncey was hired by a GM who is no longer there. That is never a recipe for a prolonged career with that team. We know one thing about GMs: when they come in, they want to put their own people in. Plus, you've got Dame. You know, apparently, by looking at it, it appears like he's coming to the end of his time there. He's made a good go of it. There've been, and it just feels like now is the time to blow it up. Now, my only thing is, what does Dame want? Because it feels like, Dame doesn't have a championship. And I think the thing that it appears like he really, really values, and he should, is his standing as, the greatest trailblazer of all time. Like
a legacy. Like, does he want to build a legacy there? Or
exactly. He is a beloved player. I think that's like an understatement. Now, he's floated stories in the past about him being unhappy. And I think when a player does that and doesn't say anything, they just don't want to poison the good feelings that he has with that fan base. And I think that that's absolutely natural. So what does Dame want? Because if Dame is like, you know what, it's time to go, then they immediately mash that blow it up button. I think that there's a way to look at this and say, okay, so obviously Dame had issues with Olshey. Olshey is now gone, and the Blazers, went to extreme measures to get this guy out of here when he had millions of dollars still left on his contract. Dame wanted improvements to the team. Maybe we can do that. It all depends on if Dame wants to stay and if he thinks that they can improve. If Dame wants to leave, man, they got to blow it up. They got to blow it up now. They got to blow it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, like, that is a good point. Like, players now, like, even when you look at colleges, a lot of times when you look at UCONN, it has this stigma of, do you want to go to a school where there's already been so many greats, or do you want to build your own legacy at a program? And so people a lot of times in college are starting to choose that path. Like, I want to build my legacy, even if it means that we may not win right away, or even if it means that we may not win. I want to create something of my own. I want to start my own thing. And so there's not a knock, like, to that point.
It's not a knock at all.
It's not a knock either way.
Yeah.
Like, you might want to, like, I was one of those players that when I was deciding schools, I knew that there were different schools interested in me. I could choose wherever I wanted to go. I chose UConn, as we know. And the reason I chose UConn is because I knew that they had a proven method. I knew that they get the best out of their players. I knew that they would get the best out of me. And so that was what drove me. And I knew that for me, winning is better than anything. So I don't care if I'm an All-American player of the year. If we didn't win, I don't feel good. And so, but all players aren't like that. So to your point, it does matter what a player wants, because a player could be leader in points for the franchise. They're, and lead in all kinds of statistical categories. They can go home at night and be excited. Like, man, I'm going to be the greatest to ever play there. To me, that wouldn't matter. Like, to me, if I go there and get all of these stats and all of these records, and then we didn't win, I can't handle that. So it's really like, and that's why I said it's really no knock, because sports is a legacy. And the thing about sports is that people hate to hear it, but sports is a business. And so when players make business decisions in sports, they start to get labels like selfish and different things like that. And while you play the game, you should never play selfish. But when you're making a decision for your family, for yourself, of where to go, where you want to live, a bigger contracts with another team, that's not selfish. That's a business decision that's best for you and your family. So the reason I say that is because I've seen a lot of talk about like guys that, you know, make a decision to leave. It's a preference. Like, you know, it's a decision. It's a business decision. I think it does matter. What does Dame Lillard? I know that he wanted everything there in Portland. He wanted to stay there. He wanted them to make changes. He wanted them to be good. I don't know if he's going to get all of that. So what's the most important thing?
Well, I mean, here's the fascinating thing about this. Part of the fascinating thing about this for me is Olshey. I think if you could pinpoint like one fatal flaw of the Olshey regime, and this is aside from the various allegations of like toxic workplace, et cetera, that investigation is ongoing. It is that Olshey fell in love with his draft picks to the point that, you know, he could have moved CJ McCollum in the past for other players, maybe other players that could have bolstered the defense. But he seemed, and by all the reporting I've read, appeared to be so, I got to prove people wrong about CJ McCollum. I drafted him 10th. Everybody's wrong about him. This guy's an all-star. And you know, I think he can play at an all-star level when he's playing well and he's healthy. I'm going to prove everybody wrong about him. I'm not going to trade him. I'm not going to do this and that. And I think clearly that was a mistake. Held on too long, could have improved the team with using CJ McCollum as a piece and didn't want to do that. So the question is now, does the, you know, kind of like GM by committee of Jody Allen, Vice Chair Burt Kold, and others, like, do they pull the trigger on a CJ McCollum and stuff for Ben Simmons deal, understanding that there is a world where it still doesn't work out and Dame maybe wants to go? Do you take that risk and say, okay, and listen, it's hard to, CJ makes like $35 million plus a year, so it's not easy. But like, is there a world where you do that to try and placate Dame, give him what he wants, and then if he still wants to leave, then you've just got to deal with it then? That to me is the question. Can they actually make this trade?
I don't know.
And does he help?
Yeah, that's the real question. It's, will Ben Simmons, because just getting a player of that magnitude, it's not good enough to just be a little bit better than you are. So, of course, adding a good player to a team is going to make the team better. But will that team be able to beat other Western Conference teams in the playoffs? Will that team be able to make a late run into the playoffs? Because if they can't get all the way there, adding Ben Simmons, they've made a run with Damian Lillard, Dame time shooting from the logo. They've made a run. They've made it exciting before, but when you add pieces and when you make changes, you want to take a leap. You don't want to just nudge yourself a little bit further than what you are. So I don't know if adding Ben Simmons will help them compete with the Golden States and the Suns of the world. I just don't know. I just don't see it. But
I'm going to say no. That said, I mean, they hired Chauncey. This team is dire on defense. Again, they are dead last right now. They were, I believe, either last or bottom of the league last season. Chauncey Billups has recently said, I've never seen a team that needs its bench to inspire its starters. That shit is crazy to me. It's supposed to be the other way around. Obviously, Chauncey would love to see the defense improve. The issue is, Dame is what, 33 years old? Ish. Dame has been one of the worst defenders in the league, but not important because he scores at a level that it's not really that big a deal. But if you're looking with this existing roster that has been last in defense for a while, to improve them, you're talking about working around the margins. There's no amount of scheme. This is the team. It kind of is what it is. The habits are what they are. I think it's worth a try to bring in defensive players, because that's how you get better on defense. Is you get players who defend. and are capable of defending with their length and their athleticism to defend, like Ben Simmons. But like, to your point, I don't know that moves the needle enough.
Is it worth it? Like, is it worth it for everything that, like, because you got to think, once you bring Ben Simmons to town, what's going to happen with the media? What's going to happen with all eyes on you guys? What's going to happen with the pressure of you guys to need to now, you added a new piece. Let's see what it did. And all of that to a team that already has dealt with a lot, in a sense of, we've been hearing this stuff about Damian Lillard and these reports. I mean, even now on Twitter right now, there's still tweets going on. Somebody said, when will y'all learn not to report this stuff if Damian Lillard hasn't said it directly? Damian Lillard quote tweeted it and said, these people love drama too much. So this has been drama going on with this team regarding this whole situation. This is not new. So if you add Ben Simmons to the equation, that situation, I just don't know if I like what it might do to that situation that's already had a lot of talk.
I'll say this, Dame is too smart to ever speak directly on it.
Facts.
Renee, the streak has ended. The Warriors got revenge last week on Friday night, but the Phoenix Suns showed over the entire month of November that they are a force to be reckoned with, going on an 18-game winning streak that included wins against the Warriors, Nets, and of course, unfortunately, the Knicks and the Hawks. However, what do we think about what appears to be an even hotter team than a year ago that was in the NBA Finals and took 2 straight games away from the eventual champion Milwaukee Bucks? What do we think about these Phoenix Suns, Renee?
Well, they are definitely hot. Their name suits them, the Phoenix Suns. They're high. Even one loss doesn't cool you off. So I want people to know, like, the fact that they were streaking at what didn't lose in November is the wildest thing, or maybe didn't lose at home. I don't want to spread fake news. But
no loss November. Entire no loss November.
No loss November is a wild thing for an NBA team that plays games every 2 days. Like, no loss November in the NFL, you might have won 4 games, and that's hard in the NFL as well. But a no loss November for an NBA team, that's a lot of games. And one game, I don't think changes anything. Like, even though they lost that one game, they're still, like, everyone is struggling with injury, staying healthy. Devin Booker didn't play, but I think the Phoenix Suns, look, Chris Paul, when he has teams that aren't necessarily the greatest, he overachieves with those teams. So you mean to tell me you give a leader like Chris Paul the keys to that Maserati over there, and you got Monty Williams coaching it up over there. They got a brotherhood over there. They believe. That's a scary team. I'm just going to say, like, that's a scary team. They're young. Devin Booker is a superstar. Like, He's already won, but he's even going to be an even bigger one. That's a scary, scary team over there.
Yeah, it's they've just kind of, it's really fun to watch a team just kind of figure it out like this. I think you're exactly right. Chris Paul is he is winning contained in a single person on steroids. I think, when he went to OKC, he lifted them to the playoffs. We saw what he did with the Clippers all those years. I think the thing that impresses me the most is that Monty has somehow managed to balance what is a very young team, Booker, Bridges, Ayton, all playing wonderfully well. Bridges has taken a leap this year. Ayton continues the leap that he started to take towards the end of last season. But balancing these young players with Chris Paul, one of the greatest to ever play, but also a player who is notoriously not the easiest maybe to get along with. And certainly as a young player, not the easiest to get along with. He is a guy who is notorious for being hard on his teammates. He will let them know when they mess up. And listen, obviously helps when you are when you go on an 18-game winning streak and you don't lose and you don't mess up very much, and you are, top 5 in top 10 in offense and defense and top 3 in net rating. That really helps. But I think Monty Williams has done a really, really fantastic job coaching this team and getting them all to be on the same page. Because that can be hard. Chris Paul, he's worn people out. He's worn players out before, notably.
And it's interesting too, though, because when you talk about that, you hear people like Charles Barkley, and I would say guys that are OGs, they praise Chris Paul on his leadership because he has more of a what you would call old school style leadership where accountability is served up fresh in your face. Like you gotta eat it. There's no running from it. It's sitting right here. That it will call you out in front of the group. You will get embarrassed if you're wilding. Like that's old school. That's a type of leadership that we see all the time. But it's shifting now. And the reason I say it's shifting is because of you even look at the coaches and how coaches are coaching. Like we watched the Last Dance documentary and there was players that had a lot to say about Michael Jordan.
Yes.
That was kind of normal back then, like getting onto your teammates and not saying it's right because who's to determine what's the right or wrong way to lead, but there are wrong ways. But I'm just saying like that's how people led for a long extended amount of time. And Chris Paul is of that fabric. And you can say what you want. He's effective. Look at what happens to the teams when he leaves. Look at OKC. They just got beat by the largest margin
that was
ever.
I mean, let's talk about this for a brief second. I think that was 73 points?
73 points.
There's gotta be a fine or something. You can't lose by that. I'm sorry, but like, I understand we're tanking, we're trying to, but you can't put that kind of product out. Come on. That's can't lose by it. You can't lose by a historic number. Somebody gotta get suspended. Like Sam Presti gotta lose 3 games or something. Come on.
Sit out 3 games. Listen, I'm going to tell you what. My first thought when I saw that was like, oh my gosh, I would hate to be in film the next day. Like when you get whooped like that and everyone's talking about it, the whole world knows. Your social media went viral because they tweeted something like, all right, regroup and get back out there next game. It was like, you just know the world is looking at you. Your coaches are mad. People like Jason are going to be calling for folks to be suspended. And who is the coaches going to take it out on? You who did it, who deserves it. But I like as a player, when I never got beat by 73, I will say, but at UConn, if you get beat by 1 point, it feels like 73 and it feels very tough. And you don't want to go to film the next day and watch yourself jog down the court or not sprint back on defense. Yeah. So there's a lot there, but back to Phoenix. I think that, there's something also to be said about coaching because we talk a lot about the players and, like you said, the coaches need to get suspended if you put out that bad product.
Come on.
But what about Monty Williams and what's going on over there at Phoenix? I mean, yes, they have a good team. Yes, they have talent, but we've all seen that doesn't equate to wins. That doesn't equate to a no-loss November. We've seen talented teams lose all of November before. So what about Monty? What are your thoughts?
He's my coach of the year at this point. I mean, this is I know it's a lot of times it's a team that makes a dramatic leap that gets that kind of look for coach of the year. But it started in the bubble with that 8-game winning streak, run to the finals last season, starting off a historic start for them, really, thus far into this season. And again, I keep coming back to like, obviously it's easier when you're winning, but Chris Paul is it doesn't matter sometimes if you're right. You were talking about like vibes and how it's different now with the player empowerment era and players having such a voice inside teams now. You really got to care how they feel and what they think. And that means you can't just go at guys like Pat Riley used to do back in the day with like a 3.5-hour practice and I'm going to scream at you in film and then we're going to run till you're, wringing sweat out of your warm-ups. Like that can't happen anymore. And so I think he's done a really fantastic job bridging a generation gap between the Chris Pauls of the world who want to tell the younger players what they think. Here's a quote from Chris Paul recently about DeAndre Ayton. Me and DeAndre was getting into it like hell to start last season because I'm hard on him and I ain't no loser. Now, again, Chris Paul, one of the greatest to ever do it, greatest of all time. He instantly elevates your team. But there are times, it doesn't matter how right somebody is and how good they are. At a certain point, you would just want to be like, okay, man, I get it. I blew that rotation. I was late stepping up there. I need to recover to the 3-point line and when we're in drop or whatever it is. Like, I get it. I know. Let me just process that on my own. I don't need you to tell me. But whatever it is that is going on in that arena, in that locker room, in that film session, Monty is able to balance those things, those different voices, that generation gap, and it's obviously a fantastic job to this point. What do you think of what he's done this year?
Yeah, I think Coach of the Year he has to be your front runner for Coach of the Year right now. There's no other question. You're silly if he's not. But it's interesting because I want a lot of people talking about him. I know the Phoenix team has been playing unbelievable, and there's been a lot of publicity about how the team is performing. I want more people talking about how Monty Williams has that team performing. Because I just think that, this is how sports works. It's the shortest memory you'll ever know to man, in the sense of how good you're doing. It doesn't matter tomorrow. Yep. So I want a lot of people to start talking about Monty Williams, start talking about what's going on with him, so that there's that built up reputation, that built up grace, because hypothetically, teams go through stretches, injuries could derail a team. Yeah. And we could be talking about Monty Williams being one of the best coaches in the NBA this year. And if they don't play good next year, we could be talking about him being gone. So I want more people, just under the understanding of how sports work, I want more people talking about Monty. I think that he needs to be recognized as one of those great coaches that you're not going to just fire for one bad season or not. He needs to be getting certain, and look, I know he's a young coach, so I get all of that. But I'm just saying, he needs to be getting that talk. This is crazy. Not losing a game in November?
That's insane.
That's not just play. That's coaching too.
And here's the thing that I think is unique about Monty, having been around the NBA and covered it for a while. He might have the highest Q score of anyone in the NBA. People love Monty Williams, which is, you don't really find that. You find guys who are respected, people who are well respected, who are maybe feared a little bit, but people love Monty. The way other coaches, the way players, the way execs talk about Monty it's really unique. He's able to create a warmth and a bond with his players somehow that is a really unique thing, and it's really cool to see him succeed on this level.
Definitely.
Renee, here's a word of advice to our listeners. Pay your employees, especially your private chefs. I know a lot of Takeline listeners have private chefs. Make sure to pay them because if you don't, they might get disgruntled. And if you do something like, say, forge a vaccination card or purchase a forged vaccination card, they could possibly dime you out. So don't do that, because that is the thing that happened to Antonio Brown of the Tampa Bay Bucks. Brown is now serving a 3-game suspension, but any legal action has not yet been reported. We won't spend time on the nuts and bolts legalities of this, but since it's clear COVID is going to be with us for a while, will this situation and a similar situation with Aaron Rodgers from a few weeks ago change how the leagues legislate players who aren't vaccinated and players that break COVID protocol? Basically, are we going to see a new system kind of arise to deal with these things, Renee?
I think we have to at this point. It's we can all want to wish away COVID. I wish we could wish away COVID. We all wish that we could go back to normal. We all wish that we could be in arenas. We all wish that we could go to concerts. We all wish. And I think that the leagues were all, and still are, wishing that, okay, at a certain point, COVID will just go away and we don't have to worry about it. I don't think that we need to be doing that anymore. I think we need to start getting in some type of protocols, just in a sense of, all right, if I get a technical foul, I know what happens. As soon as that ref gives me the tee, I'm going to Steph Curry back the tee at him, and I know what I'm getting. I'm getting, a fine. I know my second technical is going to be a bigger fine. I know if you get, I know what's going to happen to me. I know if I get a flagrant. I've never gotten that one before. I've only gotten 3 technicals my whole life, by the way. I'm not that type of person. But if I got a flagrant, I knew what was going to happen then. Yeah. I don't think that people know what's going to happen to them when they break COVID protocol. And now, of course, people should not break COVID protocol. We know that people should not break COVID protocol, of course, but we also know that the same way flagrants aren't there for people to just go out and get flagrants, it's going to happen because people are going to do what people want to do. What I think all the leagues have to do is figure out a baseline norm that's just everyone knows it, whether you're Aaron Rodgers or whether you're Antonio Brown and his teammates. You know that if you create a fake vaccination card, blank will happen. And you know that if you aren't wearing your mask, blank will happen. Like, it just needs to be set so that there's an understanding, because as much as we wish, COVID is probably going to be here in 2023 as well. So it's not like we can keep just flying by our britches, as our country folks would say. We have to figure out, grant you, it would be great if everybody just followed the rules and took care of each other. But different people have different reasoning and opinions, and that's allowed in the world. But we need to figure out what's the protocols.
I think more than that too, you're absolutely right. We're used to various infractions or suspensions, etc., within certain leagues, resulting in certain set fines that we're just familiar with. COVID is obviously still, even though we've been doing this for 2 years, the response to this within leagues is still pretty new. And I think the thing that makes it complicated is it's also a public health issue that the government is involved in. So the NFL and the NFLPA, the Players Association, negotiated the length of Brown's suspension. The other part of this is, you forge a federal document that's technically a federal crime, punishable by up to 5 years in prison. What exactly is the government response to this? What is that portion of it? Because really, that's the thing we don't know about. I think that it's interesting. We're all kind of, to your point, acting like this is going to go away / it doesn't quite matter. Chef Stephen Ruiz, who Antonio Brown stiffed, is the one who dimed out Brown. If people actually were scared of the laws regarding forging these documents, I'm pretty sure, as much as Chef Stephen Brown wants to get paid and wants revenge for not getting paid, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't just come out and say, I committed a crime. Right. Yes, Antonio Brown asked me to do it, but I did do it for him. So what are those penalties going to be? Because, what are those things? Again, if this was, for instance, if this was steroids or some kind of illicit drugs, Chef Stephen Ruiz is not going to be out here being I helped smuggle cocaine into the country for it. He's not going to say that because he knows what the penalties are. So what are the penalties? Are those penalties going to be meted out in a way that is fair? And again, to your point, when do we get to a place where people understand what those penalties are? Because I think to a certain extent, we still act like this isn't real. No, we haven't gotten to a place where a notable player has gotten sick, really sick yet. I think that would be the thing that would fast forward this into, oh my God, this is real. Maybe we should take it seriously, as despite all the people that have gotten sick and that have died, and even the family members of players that have gotten sick and that died, and even the players who have gotten pretty sick. We haven't yet gotten to a point where it's a household name player has gotten really, really sick and in a life-threatening way. I think that's the thing that would make this whole conversation jump to the level of seriousness that it needs to be at.
And to that point, Jason, in the WNBA, we had Asia Durr, who had long form COVID, but she's not necessarily a household name. But to that point, it's interesting because, teams are very close. Players are close to teams. And I think that a lot of players, while they're doing this, they're not thinking that they're going to hurt any of their teammates, because they're all thinking, to your point, you're right. They're not, but players aren't even thinking that they're going to harm somebody else. They're probably thinking, oh, I'm probably taking care of myself. I'm wearing my mask. I don't need to take all those tests. And that's the tough part, because until we have it happen, with somebody that everyone knows that it's he got exposed through his teammate, that wasn't that didn't, like, until that scenario happens, it doesn't feel real enough, because, you know, we do know that there's been a lot of deaths. We do know that there's been a lot of, like, people hospitalized, serious injuries, illnesses because of COVID. But when you start to, no one ever thinks it's going to happen to them. Even people that catch COVID, even in the pros right now, you know, I just called the Hawks versus Hornets game. 4 Hornets players were out in health and safety protocols for COVID. Like, it's still a very real thing, but it's not a scary thing, because athletes healthy probably think we can beat everything and anything. You know, there's that mentality that we're invincible and that we'll get through it. But it's scary because you're invincible until you're not.
I mean, it's part human nature. Part of human nature is you don't believe it'll happen to you, right?
Yep.
And then the other part of it is, I think you're exactly right, which is like professional sports kind of doesn't work without players, everyone involved feeling like they are special, feeling like they are on some level different than everybody else, and that the bad stuff is not going to happen to them. Because that's the way, you know, you can watch any professional sports league, doesn't matter what it is. And the reason there's that level of intensity is because those players feel like they are the best of the best of the best, that they are special, that they are destined by fate to be this good. And part of that is feeling, man, that, you know, to your point, like, I have a million doctors and trainers looking at my body all the time. I'm taking this, that, and the other thing to keep my body at tip-top shape. It is a temple. I'm fine.
I eat healthy. I exercise.
Yeah.
I take care. I'll be able to recover.
I'll be okay.
And then when you talk about, to your point too, sports, everything in sports is confidence. Like, the best shooters in the world are the most confident people you'll meet, because you got to be really confident to think that you're going to make every shot you shoot. Like, I mean, that's just like when I shoot the ball, I think it's going in every single time. Mm-hmm. You gotta think that, because the moment you don't think that, it's not going in. And it works the same for all of sports. The moment you think you're not good enough, you are not good enough. Like, people will smell it. They'll sniff it out on you. I will look in your eyes and I'm like, oh wow, she don't feel like she, you know, like, they smell blood in the water is the term. So the same things that make athletes great is also our weakness. I'll say that.